Hey everyone, welcome to another COH2Cast. We are on Rzhev Winter, which is a terrible map. This time we have a 2v2 brought to you by Mr. Fives over here. He actually sent me this replay and he hyped it a bit, and now I hate him because this map sucks and I don't want to cast on it, but whatever. So we have his friend, well, he's playing OKW. His friend, the legal character, is playing Wehrmacht. Then we have the enemies. We have FTS Jono playing British and Muh playing Americans. You have the best name, so I'm gonna call you Freedom because that's your name now. And yeah, so we have pretty much everyone except the Soviets, because you know we can't fit 5 people into a 2v2, and I need to lower my volume. I feel like every video I make, I have to tinker with my volume because it's just like, what the fuck. So, looks like a pretty standard opening from the Americans going riflemen, and an infantry section from the British. Look, I do not know what you will build, but yeah. From the Wehrmacht we have a tier 0 opening with MG spam, which on an open map like this can work out quite well, so that's okay. Fives went for 2 Volksgrenadiers, which can work. Yeah, on this map, definitely Volksgrenadiers seem to be the way to go, especially because of the long engagement ranges. So he went Berry Crew. I was gonna say, considering an MG doctrine like Luftwaffe would be pretty good, because again, MGs are really valuable on this map. British going for a Vickers, and Americans looks like they're gonna go Airborne Company, which I haven't seen a lot of lately because I'm thinking that a lot of the American players really prefer doctrines with artillery, like the new tactical support doctrine with the Calliope or Infantry Company. That's at least what I've seen and what I prefer these days for, you know, the Rifle Company nerf, which used to be my favorite USF doctrine. So we have a first engagement over here. Pioneers instantly retreating from the green covered up infantry sections. Very good, very good. Definitely do not want to be fighting that kind of a losing fight. Looks like he will try to hold down this sector with an MG so that they cannot take his strategic point. I'm not sure what really is the point of doing this, because well, actually there is a point to doing this because you have no grenadiers to push up. You just need to hold whatever you have. But this is kind of a hole that you have yourself dug into, though it's pretty obvious that this strategy is meant to work in tandem with Fives. Fives providing the infantry and Wehrmacht providing the MGs, illegal providing the MGs. So we have pretty passive play from both sides. Nothing really is going on. Fighting position going up in the middle, along with an MG from the British player watching the middle. British player already tacked to tier 2. So that's very good, recognizing immediately that the game is not going to go anywhere fast, and going immediately for tech to try and, you know, get out some kind of early game unit that can help him out. In this case, engineers, and he will go for grenade tech, which is not what I expected. I would have expected maybe an armored car or a mortar pit, which he might still get, but grenade tech looks like he will get grenades to force out these MGs in the houses. Engagement going on in the middle, big infantry charge from Fives, going to be repelled by the Vickers and the fighting position, looks like, but this flanking, well, kind of flanking force will stand in red cover, which is a terrible idea, but sheer weight of numbers will prevail against the Americans, completely wiping a rifleman squad. Looks like MG support from the southern munitions point will suppress these riflemen that were, you know, threatening the blob. But because Fives elected not to flank around the fighting position before it could, you know, build an MG, he was punished and his units were massacred completely. So the Americans, despite losing a rifleman squad, and they replaced that rifleman squad with a Pathfinder and a lieutenant, so definitely a big upgrade in their anti-infantry capabilities. Looks like the MG was forced out, but possibly by a grenade? Possibly by a grenade. I do not... Or maybe just rifle fire, forcing out the MG and a Pioneer squad from this strategic point. Yeah, I think that the Americans were the victors of the engagement because they got to keep their ground, and they also managed to inflict a lot of manpower damage on Fives, who has completely bled out. He cannot even reinforce his own units, and activated the Fog of War by mistake. So now, Wehrmacht, illegal character, finally getting some grenadiers out onto the field, which have been long overdue, and also mortar, which will help him out very much against these static positions that the allies are getting. So he's going very heavy on tier 0 and tier 1, which I do not really agree with. He has a shit ton of fuel, which he just spent on phase 1, so that's good. Trying to get perhaps a half track in this kind of battle would be very useful, because in this kind of an engagement, just parking your half track like over here would allow you to reinforce and just overrun the enemy with numbers. So we have a nice flank coming in from an infantry section, along with a frontal assault from 2 more infantry sections, while the Americans hold the line from 5's infantry. And this MG is the only thing that's pretty much stopping the British from completely breaking through the German lines. Looks like a couple grenades will go in, almost wiping a Volksgrenadier squad and an MG42. So that's very lucky for Fives and legal that didn't happen. Nicely going for a mech HQ. This is exactly what he needs right now. The Allies went very heavy on anti-infantry with MGs, Lieutenant, Pathfinders, and right now they have 0 anti-tank, and Fives is very, very close to getting a Lux. He is only 15 fuel away. So it looks like the counter push from the Germans will succeed until the MG comes up to support, so they will be able to kind of force back the British infantry, but they'll probably not be able to break through any further. Some nice harassment coming in from the Pioneers, that's very good. Sending, you know, your weaker units out to cap. Storm Officer not really being used, it's just sitting in the base with the Blob, which, well, while sitting with the Blob is his job, while the Blob is in the base reinforcing, it's not doing anything. What illegal characters should really consider doing is building a medic bunker over here in the middle of the base, so that they can heal both his infantry and Fives' infantry that come onto the base to, you know, heal up, because Fives went medical HQ, or rather mech HQ, excuse me. So mortar already putting in some nice work. Bed 1 already, 2 kills only, but it's definitely been putting on some damage onto the British and American units. And oh, so it looks like we're gonna have some Pathfinder spam coming in. A couple Pathfinders already going to start sniping away at this mortar from the Wehrmacht, and possibly decrewing it, though it gets away barely. Now the Pathfinders will be caught in red cover, but this Grenadier squad that comes in red cover will also be caught by flanking riflemen, and the sniper accuracy of the Pathfinders completely wiping them off the field. So now a pretty substantial detachment will try to head for this victory and fuel point. You do not want to leave them in the hands of the enemy, so this is a good move from Fives. Though possibly the Storm Officer is not the best capping unit, it should probably best be kept with the main force. Using the Storm Pioneers for that would probably be a better idea, especially because once you have capped the place with the Storm Pioneers, you can also place mines there to, you know, better secure it. So we have the A half track coming onto the field, not naturally perfect unit to get from the Americans right now from the Lieutenant tier. Unfortunately, Fives is already getting a Lux. Well, already. It's actually kind of a late Lux because of the lackluster map control that the Germans right now have had. What is this half-track doing? He's just driving up to this house with the MG42, not even really giving a shit, and his MG42 has incendiary rounds equipped, but it looks like it's not firing at the half-track, and now it does. One burst taking it down to pretty much no HP, and second burst just finishing it off. Yeah, you need to be really careful with these vehicles, especially with MG42s. They can really kill light vehicles very fast, and the incendiary armor piercing rounds also are more effective against infantry, just massacring the American forces. And this will allow a little bit of a reprieve for the Germans. Now they have their Lukes, they have, you know, their infantry well, you know, healed up, whereas the Americans and the British just got forced off the field. And their shock unit, you know, the A half-track just got destroyed, whereas the Wehrmacht shock unit because technically OKW is also Wehrmacht, but whatever. Just hit the field. Unfortunately, it runs right into an AT gun. Luckily, does not get sunk by the AT gun round at maximum range, and it will be able to retreat to the mech HQ for repairs. In the meantime, blob capping is not a good idea. You should have sent the Storm Officer to the fuel so that you can cap both of the points in the time span where you have capped only one point. You could have capped both of them if you had just separated your units, so that's okay. Left side being left completely harassed by the Allies, this is definitely a mistake, as there isn't really any defenses on this whole opening. They could just walk in some infantry, see that there's an MG and just avoid it, just capture the VP, and then just head to this strategic point over here to cut off the fuel flow. There's really nothing defending this whole area. This is a big gap in the German lines right now that should probably be addressed as soon as possible. Second fighting position going up. Curious choice considering there's a mortar on the field. I really do not agree with this. In fact, it's a miracle that this fighting position is still alive anyway. It looks like some counter harassment coming in from the British. Very good, very good. Nice to see that the British are reacting to what they're doing and not just, you know, blobbing their way into the middle. Luke's going to nicely be used to secure the left flank. This is one of the best units, the best uses of light vehicles, especially in 1v1s and 2v2s. Just securing any kind of really far away points on the flanks. So the fighting position here was predictably destroyed. And the mortar just keeps on going to work on the American defenses. Obviously, the British are going to be forced back by the Storm Officer, giving a nice boost to the accuracy of both Grenadiers. So the British will have to think of something else to dislodge this particular capping squad. American blob pushing up the middle and going to run straight into an MG, and this truck is likely to set up a Schwer Panzer headquarters around here. Unfortunately for the Germans, a nice use of smoke from the Americans to push past the MG. Of course, you know, already the fact that there's smoke, if your MG is getting smoked, you should probably just retreat out of there. As you can see, there's also a flank going on right now that I cannot cover. Oh, nice grenade onto the half-track, supply half-track, also pushing it down to almost no HP, and probably a BAR fire is going to finish it off. Very nice. In the meantime, this assault, this flanking assault from Fives is failing because of this MG that refaced just the correct, you know, moment. This Lukes was forced back by the AT gun, looks like. And right now we have a Cromwell already onto the field, going to start running over the Volksgrenadiers, nicely making a good entrance. Good play from the British right now. He saw that you cannot. Well, right now he can, but from what he knew, he could not defeat any kind of forces that were on the right side, so he just decided to cut off. Nicely getting some early Panzer Shreks from a legal character, definitely anticipating any kind of early armor from the Allies. This definitely saved the Axis right now. This Cromwell could have done a lot of damage, as there are no pack guns right now, or Raketenwerfers from the Germans. Well, there is a Raketenwerfer, but it was only bought in reaction to the Cromwell and not as a prediction. So Fives looks like he had quite a bit of manpower stocked up. Yeah. He had quite a bit of manpower stocked up. He's going to queue up 2 more Volksgrenadier squads. He does not have the munitions to upgrade them. So what he probably should have done is gone a replacement SWS supply half-track so that you can set up a Schwer Panzer headquarters around here. Around here it would be fairly well protected from any kind of attack. Also, nicely, MG got decrewed. The Vickers MG got decrewed. Also, a 6-pounder AT gun got decrewed. Nicely stolen from illegal character. So definitely he is aware of using drop support weapons. So that's always a pleasure to see. Vet-free MG42. MG42, this is the MG42 that just smoked the A half-track. So this Lukes is being misplayed. It should be at the medical. Again, I always make that mistake. the mechanized regiment headquarters just to repair, and then it should be used in the flanks to just secure the flanks, prevent any capping, and yeah, pretty much just be a nuisance. So the Wehrmacht right now have 3 MGs covering the middle. There will definitely not be no allied infantry that will be able to break through that. Unfortunately, these Pathfinders, if used in a correct flanking maneuver, can inflict a lot of damage to these MGs before they can shift around their arcs of fire to, you know, respond to any kind of threat. As you can see, this infantry instantly being pinned by the MG. Cromwell sitting on the ice, not a good idea. There's probably an HE gun that's being pushed up. Yes, this Raken should be being pushed up to the front. As you can see, illegal character nicely got a half track, which is good. AP rounds not really gonna work too well against this Cromwell. Nicely refacing the Raken though, going to start lobbing some rockets at the British tank. So MG42 getting decrewed, should hopefully use the sappers to recrew. Sappers are really cheap. Looks like he's going to use the lieutenant, which is not a good idea because the lieutenant is fairly expensive to reinforce, whereas the sappers would be really, really cheap to reinforce. So that would be the best way to go about it in terms of pure resource efficiency. Of course, the lieutenant men recrewing the MG will also be tougher, you know, have better accuracy than the sappers, and will also be able to, you know, fight better. Nicely trying to defend whatever gains he made on the left. Unfortunately, Fives looks like he's not microing these units at all, so he's going to take very much a lot of unnecessary casualties passing through this British infantry. So, airborne being called in. I think I just smacked my mic, so I'm sorry for whatever noise that just happened. He just called in some paratroopers right into the center, into the lake, frozen lake. And paratroopers, I do not feel like they are worth the manpower that you need to pay to get. As much as he has the munitions to utilize them correctly by upgrading either Thompsons or LMGs, looks like he will go for Thompsons. Yeah, I just do not think that they are worth the manpower, and for the investment, Pathfinders are actually a little bit more efficient in my opinion, but hey. Oh, so it looks like we have a double airborne from lol, that glider. See, in Company of Heroes 1, that would have wiped that whole Volksgrenadier squad completely. Oh, and this Volks squad just got a Shrek upgrade, so that means that if these commandos will be able to wipe them, which they will not, but, you know, if they would have been able to wipe them, that would have been such a pretty big loss, which doesn't even make any sense. So nicely coming with the Cromwell to harass the flank. Unfortunately, we have a Stug. I've already expressed my opinion on Stug on my previous cast, so you should really watch that. But I will repeat a little bit of what I said. I think that the Stug can work out in team games, especially when the strategies of each player are complementary to each other. In this case, we do not know yet if the strategy from Fives will complement the Stugs well, or the strategy from a legal character will complement the Stugs well. What he clearly wants to do is upgrade these scopes on them, because I didn't talk about his doctrine selection. Jaeger armor, perfect on a map like this, where there's like wide open lanes, pretty much no line of sight shot blockers, and as you can see, nicely finally using the Lukes to counter harass the sides of the map, so that's good. Yeah, I was talking about Jaeger doctrine. Regal mines can be good, but they're underutilized. I do not think he has placed any, as much as he did get a half track, which is already, you know, one of the things that people do not do a lot. Did he get a medic bunker? He didn't. Fuck you. Kill yourself. Jokes aside, you really need to get a medic bunker, especially in team games. There's really no reason not to. He did get a bunker here, but I think he will. Yeah, he will upgrade a machine gun on it. Just wants to hold this VP as much as possible. Right now, the Axis have a pretty big advantage in the fact that they seem to be able to hold down all 3 VPs at once, because the Allies lost a little bit too much. As much as they didn't really lose a lot, they were just playing a little bit too passively. They have this Cromwell, which is a big plus for them. They've had it for a while, and it's honestly, it should be about time that the British start thinking about getting some more units onto the field. Because yes, they have these commandos, which are really good, but you had your first tank quite a while ago, and now you still only have your first tank. Maybe actually lost one Cromwell, but I didn't notice really. So this Cromwell going to just poop on all the German infantry. The Lukes is going to be stealthed out, as much as I do not agree. I think what he should have done is, you know, paid more attention to the Lukes and just ran away at full speed as soon as possible. Because as you can see, you forgot to put it on hold fire, so it fired and immediately revealed itself. Even if you wouldn't have fired, the Cromwell going here just naturally would have spotted the Lukes, probably. So yeah, Stug going across the ice, pretty risky maneuver to go and encounter a fast medium tank, which is, you know, yeah. So Pathfinders right now just massacring German infantry, which is why I said that Pathfinders, in my opinion, are a bit more efficient than Airborne. They can really deal the same amount of damage while being able to be grouped up more because of lower cost, which is invaluable, really. So MG going to suppress pretty much all this American infantry. The Pathfinders finished blob capping the VP. You don't blob cap, as I already said, and they will probably snipe down this MG to death. A nice tip for Pathfinders is that when you recruit, as they're being flanked and massacred by these Volksgrenadiers, when you recruit a weapon team with Pathfinders have a natural line of sight superiority over other units. They have a natural line of sight buff, so they see farther than other units. When you recruit a team weapon with them, they still keep that when they are part of the weapon crew. So the weapon crew that you get will be able to see much farther than if you had recruited with, for example, like an engineer squad. Nicely planting mines over here from the British. Getting an engine damage, heavy engine damage on this Panzer IV, very unlucky for the legal character. Was definitely looking to get a lot of impact out of this Panzer IV, especially as it timed very well with Fives' Panzer IV, which will be used in conjunction, hopefully, with the Stug to push off whatever British forces are here, which they already went away. There's only an ambushed commando unit. Should probably use these commandos to plant a demo charge over here. And yeah. What was I talking about? Well, yeah, these when you recruit a weapon team with Pathfinders, weapon teams usually how they work is that they have a really long range, compensated by the fact that whatever crew goes inside of them will not have the sight range to spot for itself. Well, Pathfinders just circumvent that completely. And I believe Jaeger Light Infantry also do so. There's one added bonus of that. So it looks like this Panzer IV will be pretty much caught out of position completely by an AT gun? Yes, a 6-pounder AT gun and a Cromwell, and completely massacred. You really do not want to push prematurely with tanks. You had your infantry support just 10 seconds away from the fight, so there was no reason to rush in with your Panzer IV. You should have just waited. Tanks are not scouts. As much as German tanks are usually a little more resilient and can usually charge blindly into the fog of war, yeah, not a good idea to do so anyway. So, as you can see, this a bit of a misguided assault. It started well with a nice flank onto the usually forward-facing defenses of the British and the Americans that are over here. Unfortunately, you walked right into the range of the fighting position, getting all your infantry suppressed and pretty much massacred from the LMGs and the Pathfinders. LMGs from the Brens. I mean, the Brens from the infantry sections. So it looks like the Pathfinder blob will push in conjunction with the normal American blob. The normal American blob isn't being microed, and it's being torn apart by rifle grenades. Unfortunately for illegal character, these well-placed rifle grenades didn't actually do that much damage because these units were in open cover. They were pretty much spread out completely. We have some kind of artillery going down. It's an assault artillery. Assault artillery is really scary, spooky, and impressive with its fireworks, but it doesn't actually do that much damage. It's possibly more useful for the smoke that comes afterwards than for the actual shells themselves. But yeah. Yeah, I was saying, grenades onto units that are in open terrain are usually less effective than grenades on units that are in cover, just because of the fact that the units will not be as clumped up, the unit models. So nicely coming in with this Cromwell and wiping out completely this Sturm officer. Fucking Obersoldaten bodyguard. Completely wiped out. The Sturmofficer has no defense against vehicles, so this Cromwell has definitely been paying for itself. 21 kills. FTS Jono is really floating with his commander regiment. He does have commandos on the field, and more than one commando squad is, in my opinion, overkill, which would kind of say that he needs to get more, perhaps more infantry sections, nicely sinking this loose, ending the bane of that little tiny monster. So looks like he went for hammer tactics. So we're gonna see likely a comet soon out of him. I probably agree. As much as on this map, I believe Firefly is a little bit more effective than on other maps, just because of the long engagement ranges and the long line of sight opportunities with few shot blockers. The same way I said Jaeger armor can be effective because the elephant pretty much thrives on this ground. Yeah, pretty much the same applies to the Firefly. So it looks like illegal character went for something a little different from what I saw. The Stub was just for defense against any kind of early vehicle that could, try to ruin the day of the Germans, which kind of succeeded. And now it's up to Vet 1, so it has target weak points, so it should be preserved in the back line, so that it can stun any kind of flanking allied tank and allow for other armor to finish it off. So Schwer went down quite a while ago, I hope. Placed in a decent spot, not too vulnerable, so that's good. There's also another half-track, which I feel like is going to be turned into a, well, obviously a battle group headquarters, but I feel it signifies a King Tiger coming up. Looks like the German armor is amassing for a flank, and the German infantry is clearing the way ahead. So this is, for now, a little bit of a better assault than the failed flank from Fives earlier. Unfortunately, it looks like he's not falling through the armor, so now he is finally doing that. So, and an optimal time as well, the American infantry and the British tank are being bogged down on the right by a few German units. So if right now all these units, just surge forward and, strike at whatever is over here, looks like they were able to wipe out the mortar pit. Flanking Panzer IV is going to flank this entire Allied army. This Cromwell is being caught with its pants down, very much half HP. And the Panzer IVs looks like they kind of know where the Cromwell is, but they kind of don't. They're looking for it in a bit of a blob, half-assed manner. Should probably not be overextending with these tanks. I would not be surprised if you lost them at this point because you are being flanked and probably sandwiched in. So he's going to go directly into the base. Nice bold attack. I kind of like this because I feel like a lot of players play a bit too defensively, but this is a bit too aggressive. As much as aggressive playstyle makes for a better, game for me, so that's good. And this Cromwell, nicely picking off the ambulance from the Americans. Unfortunately, these tanks are not on prioritized vehicles only. Well, this Panzer IV is, but this isn't. And only now it's finally being pushed on that mode. So you missed a lot of shots on the Cromwell, wasting them on the infantry. This Cromwell is very, very lucky to escape alive thanks to emergency war speed and also thanks to, well, frankly, the negligence of illegal characters to not, use target vehicles only, and he will lose a Panzer IV for nothing because of his hubris. Nicely placing a bunker, hiding it over here, but I feel like any kind of armored vehicle that will come up will be able to kill it. So this vet-free Cromwell will prove a bane in the existence of the Germans for now. The Germans do have a triple cap, and the Allies really need to do something about it because they are losing. They are at 200 VPs, and with 3 VPs being ticked down every second that they do not cap a VP, yeah, they will lose the game very fast. As you can see, they're already at 190. They will only last a couple minutes by now, and they really need to get their shit together. Comet being used as a counter-harassment unit is not helping because the Comet right now should be used where it can pretty much do its most impact, though here it's safer, so there's something to be said about that. Now they really need to be moving quickly with their units to cap the VP and the fuel point, and also try to collapse from the north onto, the flank of the Germans. Because a frontal assault will be pretty much useless. At this point, the lack of artillery from choosing airborne doctrine is really starting to make its presence felt. There's 2 Jacksons on the field, which I kind of agree to, but I kind of also don't, because you see lots of armor from the German side as we see a Panther coming into the field. You do see lots of armor coming from the Germans, but also you kind of need flexibility at this point. You cannot just put your entire army in one spot and expect it to do well. Illegal character right now, he's kind of low on units because he's floating a lot, so I should suggest that you should take a look at that, really. Though the units that he does have, he's been preserving them pretty well, so that there's something to be said about that. Whereas 5's unit preservation has not been quite so good. His Volks are really not vet up at all. And his Panzer IV died really quickly, so it looks like he will try again with a Panther, see if he can do better. American Blob being walked into negative cover, really not good. 2 rifle grenades, not going to do that much damage, but rifle fire and LMG fire will definitely do a lot of damage. So now it looks like the German assault from the left flank will once again commence. These left hooks have been definitely useful for illegal character, and definitely been using the map quite correctly, in my opinion. That's a mistake a lot of people do, is that they do not approach from, the angles, and they just kind of charge through the center. It's an easy mistake to fall into, because it's like, oh, I need to get, to this point quicker from my base. Do not have the time to flank. Well, you really should take your time to flank. As you can see, earlier on, the British and American defenses in the middle were completely outflanked from the left. And pretty much all that the British had over here to rely upon is now gone. So the British right now, they're playing well with their units, but they're really not building any units because they're floating a fuck ton of manpower and fuel. And now he's walking his prized vet-free Cromwell with 30 kills onto a Shrek blob by AT guns. Holy shit, that noise. For the AT guns and the Panther, so yeah, but bye-bye Cromwell. And now he's walking commandos in there, which are going to grenade themselves, which is kind of funny. And if this OKV blob didn't retreat instinctively from, seeing a grenade, which was actually a missed grenade, yeah, he could have actually wiped the commando squad, which would have been a big blow to the British. So it looks like we have a nice air support operation coming down over here on this blob of German stuff. This Panzer IV might go down from the 6-pounder anti-tank guns spotted upon by the American infantry. And looks like illegal character nor 5s noticed this is going on. Luckily, the AoE of the bombing run was nerfed last patch, or else all of this would have been completely obliterated by the bombardment. Still, it inflicted quite a lot of damage on the German defensive positions over here in the center. Of course, if the Allies hadn't just wasted all their units to attack, it would have been way better. It looks like a Panzer IV over here went down, but it took down a Jackson with it, so that's definitely a fair trade. As the Americans and British right now lacking resources compared to the Germans. Well, not really, just because they don't have enough. They don't have as much resource points as the Axis. Doesn't mean they don't have as much resources, because they are just been floating so much. Which I feel like, I can't help but feel like this is kind of the reason why they are struggling right now to keep up. All these AT guns are not really being held on prioritized vehicles or camouflage, as it should be appropriate. You always should camouflage your rockets, as this will just help you so much. So this AT gun is being walked up. Obviously, a bit of a miss micro can happen to everyone. Though now really 5s should take it for himself and push up as quickly as possible, because the Allies are looking really thin. And right now the Germans have a really big advantage in force numbers and also BPs. If they can stall down the game for a couple of more minutes at full free cap, just sending a Pioneer over here would do wonders for them. A glider was dropped in behind the Germans, which is obviously a terrible idea. Never drop gliders behind too much. Should always drop gliders either safely in the back or onto a side point to cap it really quickly. So the Panther charges up because it doesn't really see much anti-tank, but it's being taken down very quickly by the Comet and the Jackson. So the Allied counterattack will now start at pretty much full. Unfortunately, the Germans have a crap load of defensive assets at their disposal, and the Allies have to attack through open ground against a lot of German infantry. Main gun damaged on the Jackson from the AT guns, and now it's dead from a Panther shot, I think. Was it a Panther shot? No, it was an AT gun shot. Was it? Yep, it was an AT gun shot. So now the Allied infantry is going to overpower the German infantry and just charge through the center. Unfortunately, this is all that the Allies have, and when they meet the MG, at this point they don't have any reserves left to, you know, flank around and take care of this threat. So now they will be forced to retreat, most likely very soon, not even going to be able to wipe this Panzer Grenadier, or spot for any kind of Allied anti-tank to take out this Panther, which has been used kind of recklessly, but also kind of effectively. So really no quarrels with that. Commandos should really be retreated. They are expensive to reinforce, as all British infantry. Actually, commandos are just as expensive to reinforce as... Well, no. They used to be just as expensive to reinforce as infantry sections, but that was changed. Panzer Grenadiers netting himself a nice bazooka. A nice thing about the Panzer Grenadiers is that when they get a weapon, they have 2 weapon slots for special weapons, which normally are taken up by both Panzerschrecks that cost 120 munitions, but when you take a weapon just like a bazooka or an LMG or whatever from the ground, you will, you know, only receive 1 Shrek, but it will only cost 60 munitions, which is a great bargain, honestly. When you consider that the Volksgrenadier Shreks at 90 are so powerful, you can really see why 1 Shrek at 60 could just be really good. So right now the Allies are lacking anti-infantry, MG being pushed up, but it will probably be cleared by rifle grenades. Really lucky to have not been cleared on that first rifle grenade, so it's going to be able to get off another burst and suppress these German infantry for a little while. Panzer Grenadiers being recklessly thrown into the battle, really not good. Right now, oh yep, they were wiped, so bye-bye Panzer Grenadier. Also, these vet-free Grenadiers should really be retreated, used very recklessly. So finally we have a flank coming on. Fibes has a lot of resources and he has a medical issue, so I feel like he's going for a King Tiger, which would be the correct decision right now, as the Allies can't really stretch themselves. Going with enough anti-tank to counter any kind of really heavy German armor like an Elephant or a King Tiger would really be overstretching their really thin resources at this point, because the fact that they had so much resources saved up didn't really matter in the end, considering they are just losing all of the engagements, and they really do not have any VPs. They're down to 50 VPs, and now they are about to be triple capped on the right, and they have really no forces to fight a free front war at this point between over here. Well, over here they really never fought over this side. So I feel like it's time to start talking about what mistakes they did. They definitely did not coordinate their strategies together as much as they could have. The Americans went tank destroyers for armor choice, which is good complementary to what the British did with fast medium tanks. So there's that, good, but they never really used them in any kind of coordinated way, so I feel like that potential was completely wasted. And they both went heavy anti-infantry elites for their doctrine choice, which I feel like is a mistake. Especially as, again, just like in my last replay, the commando doctrine was really not used as well as it could have. And unlike the last replay, where I feel like the Americans could have gone something other than infantry doctrine and, you know, gotten some good use out of that, I feel like this time infantry doctrine itself would have been the better choice to, you know, take out all this defensive, you know, work that the Germans did. So now, finally, the Allies decided to go for a 2-pronged move at the end of the game when the result had already been decided. Instead of going for a big, spear attack, spearhead into the center, they decided to go for a bit of a pincer on both flank VPs, which should have been what they had, should have been what they should have done. Should have been what they should have done in the first place for most of this game, just to throw the Germans a little bit off guard, a little bit more off guard, and render all this shit pretty much junk. When you're being outflanked from both sides, having a defense that can overlook a really exposed center is really nothing to speak of. So the game is over. GG to both players, both teams rather. I feel like I could have talked a bit more about what the Germans did, but they didn't really commit too many mistakes, other than mechanical problems. Fives' micro was not exactly on point. Nicely using the Panther though, and I feel like what the overall tactic that he went was good. I feel like some Panzer Fusiliers could have helped him out very much, and in the end he ended up floating munitions. So yeah, a little bit less Volksgrenadiers and a little bit more Rakens and Panzer Fusiliers would have helped. Other than that, he went for the Stuka at the end of the game. He didn't have the time to use it. Stuka would have been great at pretty much all moments of this game, so that's good. And yeah, I feel like the Americans, to use the fact that they went tank destroyers to the maximum effect, they should have gone infantry company and used priests to soften up whatever German defenses were there, covered with Jacksons, the British medium tanks, and you British could have used the possibly vanguard operations for a big anti-infantry tank like the Croc, which would have been really helpful. And yeah, not really that many micro mistakes coming out of the Allies as much as strategic mistakes. And really a lot of good strategic moves from the Germans, but a lot of tactical mistakes, especially early on in the game. So that's pretty much the name of the game in these team games. Well, in 1v1 as well, but also in team games. Especially if the Axis makes good strategic decisions, they can really propel themselves to a very good victory, as they did. They played much more coordinated, which I feel like is what led them to victory. So yeah, sorry for the big rant at the end, but yeah, I feel like that was a point that needed to be made. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this cast. See you later, and yeah, goodbye. Thanks for the replay to Fives, and see you later.